G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. I'm a little bit flustered at the moment because, as usual, all shit breaks loose just before you're about to come on air. So I've just managed to spill a full glass of drink everywhere. But anyway, we'll survive. It's always the way, isn't it? And then literally I just remembered with about 2 seconds ago that I didn't have my microphone on. So I hope you can hear me okay. As I said, this is Talking Boxing. Always great to have you along. As always, we've got plenty to talk about tonight. So I'm hoping that the feed is okay. If it's not, then hopefully it comes a little bit better. I'm going to put my Facebook on here so that I can see the questions coming through because on here I only get the I'll just turn that down. I only get the YouTube one. So welcome again, Talking Boxing. I'm Lyndon Hosking, as it says. As I said, we've got plenty to talk about tonight. So on the weekend, we obviously had the Charlo Castano fight, which was a rip. I think it all matched up to everything that we expected. Of course, we had last week's big no limit show with Nikita Tszyu, Paul Gallen, Harry Garside, which was a really good night of boxing. I was up there. I'm going to run through that in detail. I did last week actually go over quickly on the deep dive show, but I'll go in a little bit deeper and just tell you about the couple of days that I had up in Newcastle. It was a really great experience. I haven't been up for quite some time on a plane getting out of here. Obviously, with everything that's going on, I went to the fights about a month ago to see the Hardman-Zerafa fight, which was awesome. But to actually jump on a plane and get out of here and go up to Newcastle, it was a great event. I hadn't been to a no limit show before, so I was pretty happy to do it. I'd heard lots about it. Knew a lot of people that had actually done it, so I thought I'd go up there and see for myself what all the fuss is about, and they didn't disappoint. It's a great venue up there. They do a really good job. All the fights were great. And I had a ball up there, and as I said, I'll go through that in detail in a second. But I want to go through, as I said, the Charlo Castano show. Lots of questions to be asked and answered in that one. Tim Tszyu, of course, is over in LA at the moment, living it up with his manager Glenn Jennings and promoters Matt and George Rose. If you're on social media, you would have probably seen all the action the guys are up to over there, including, I think today was I think they had Maseratis or Lamborghinis or Ferraris or something touring around Hollywood. So hope the boys are living it up over there. They've got some big stuff happening in the near future. So again, I'll go over that. Just some other world news, Aussie news. I want to go over the actual ESPN pound for pound top 10 list as well. I saw that on social media yesterday, and I was a little bit surprised by our old mate Canelo Alvarez, what they've done with him, and just a few anomalies in the top 10. So, as I said, we'll go over that as well. I want to go over this week's fights coming up on the weekend, and also obviously the box rec, everything that's going on coming up in Aussie boxing. We all sort of know what's happening in world boxing. I think we go through enough of the social media to know what's happening. So we'll go through the Aussie stuff. Now, if you want to put a comment in, just put it in the comments. This show's all about you guys. So I can sit here and talk for however long, but it falls a bit flat when I'm sitting here talking to myself. So fire away with any questions, suggestions, comments, whatever it might be, and I'll do the best to answer them as we go. As I said, whatever subject we're on, feel free to throw those comments in because, as I said, it really means a lot to have you guys on board. And if you want to pull me up on something you don't agree with, again, put the comments in there. The internet is probably always a little bit dodgy where I live, so I'm not going to put the link in to actually come on. It's a little bit overcast where I am. It's always bad at the best of times, so we'll see how we go. So on to last week's No Limit card for starters. Now, again, as I said, I went through this on the deep dive show last Thursday night to some extent, but I want to run you through the couple of days I was there because, as I said at the start, it's an interesting one because I don't think I'd been on a plane for a couple of years. Definitely hadn't been to the fights. I think in 3 years after getting out of Melbourne. As I said, I went to the Zerafa Hardman fight 3 or 4 weeks ago, which was great. Excuse me. But to actually just get on a plane and get out of here and go up to Newcastle. Last time I did that, I went to Vegas to see Canelo and Danny Jacobs, which was in May 2019. So that's how long it's been. So it was great to actually get on there and get out of there. Started really well, got to the airport, always get there nice and early. I ran into our old mate, the legend of Australian boxing, Barry Michael, who was sitting there by himself having a coffee. So I saw Baz and went over and had a coffee and a muffin with Barry. Great bloke, obviously the one of the faces of the main event telecast on Fox Sports. So it was great to chew his ear for a couple of hours. Got a little bit hectic when we thought we were doing really well. We sat there for probably a couple of hours, and our gate was over, only about 30-40 meters away. It was all happening, and then literally 15 minutes before we were supposed to board, they decided to change the gate, didn't they? And it was right on the other side. So of course we bolted down there to the other gates. And just a lazy 200 or 300 people standing in line waiting to get on. So Barry showed that determination that he had as a world champion, because he wasn't holding back. He went straight through. We got through the under the gate and pushed in front of everyone and got on the plane pretty easily. But look, at the end of the day, it was probably half our plane was standing in line with us. So I don't think the plane was going to go everywhere. But it was really good to chat with Baz. He's had a few health issues lately, and we all wish him the best, but it was really good to sit there and talk to him for, as I said, for a couple of hours and have a coffee. And I always love talking to these types of guys, whether it be Barry or Jeff Fennick or Lester, or getting overseas and talking to these guys. The stories they tell are just awesome. And I don't know about you guys, but growing up with Barry Michael as the world champion, I must admit, he didn't get off to a great start. I wasn't a fan when he beat my hero Lester Ellis back in '85, but these days a little bit. So we love Baz. We obviously wish him all the best with his health issues going forward. He seemed to be on the up and in good spirits. He did a really good job at the fights that night. So once we got to Newcastle, I shared the cab with him to the hotels, and as I said, it was really great to catch up. The fights themselves, Newcastle, wasn't quite sure what to expect. You see it on TV, not really quite sure how big it is or what the dimensions of it all and everything, but it was awesome. We got there, the crowd was in full voice. They all got there pretty early. I think the fight started at 6. I didn't get there till 6:30 because my Uber decided not to pick me up, so it left me in the lurch. So I got to the fights. Shannon O'Connell, who I went to the fights with that night, came out and met me with my tickets that were complimentary of from Glenn Jennings. Glenn Jennings, what a guy. He took us into our seats. We sat down. We had great seats. He came over, and this guy is busy. He was at the merchandise stall. He's running around. His phone didn't stop. Everyone wanted to the tickets and where is this and where is that. I know what it's like being a promoter myself. It's a very, very hectic night. But again, this on the deep dive. But I can't thank and speak highly enough of Glenn Jennings. He sat down, made sure we had the right seats, were comfortable. He offered to take us down into the rooms beforehand. I must admit, I politely declined because I know what it's like beforehand. These fighters, the last thing they want to do is meet someone that they've never met before, a couple of hours before they fight. They've got so much going on. And so I decided to pass on it. But yeah, he was just couldn't do enough for us. He came back 3 or 4 times during the night to make sure that we had everything that we needed. We were really hoping to get Shannon O'Connell up to the microphones because Ebony Bridges was commentating at ringside. So we really hope we might get a chance to maybe have some sort of face-off, or I don't know, talk a little bit, whatever they do these days to hype up the show or the potential fight. But it didn't happen. They had box that night, and they really like to run the schedule. So that's cool. We watched the fights, and all fights were great. I missed the first fight. I think it was Lynn Sandstrom. I think I missed her fight. But Francis Chua and his Japanese opponent, I've probably seen Francis fight better. The Japanese fighter definitely deserved his win. No doubt about that. Even though it was only a 7-rounder, which was very strange. I think they were running a little bit behind on schedule by the sounds of things, so they cut it to a 7-rounder. But a really good even fight. As I said, I thought the Japanese won. But Francis Shaw, as always, turned up, gave a good account of himself, and he'll always get fights in these type of shows because he's just so entertaining. So, and I met him at the airport the next day, and really nice guy as well. So it was nice to actually meet him. We got into the main fights, Hassan Hamdan and what was his name? I can't remember actually who we fought. I'll just quickly bring it up here because you would have thought I'd been prepared for this. Tyson, was it Tyson? Where are we? I'll type it in here. If anyone can answer me, just type it in the comments there. So I'll go to the events, and it was where is it? Hassan Hamden, Trent Girdham. Sorry, Trent Girdham. Look, really, really tough fight. I was surprised everyone that Girdham came out and dropped Hassan Hamden in the first round. He can definitely punch. I wasn't too impressed. I think I said last week I wasn't overly impressed by his antics at the press conference and the weigh-in and all that sort of stuff. Look, I understand that's what puts bums on seats these days. But at the end of the day, I think you've still got to have an element of class about you. And yeah, I wasn't really impressed with it. I thought Hassan Hamden handled himself really, really well and brushed it off. I mean, as I said, I know you got to get people's interest, but they're going to be watching anyway. You're on the card fight for a big show. People are going to be watching. They're probably going to remember you anyway because of your haircut and everything else and the way you fight. But just lay low on the trash talking thing. So, but look, really, fight started really well. Trent landed a beautiful, I think it was a right hook, and knocked Hassan Hamden down. What seems to be the norm these days. These challengers come out and seem to get these, I will call them the A side, catch them cold. But to his credit, Hassan Hamden got up, fought really, really well. I thought he won 4, if not 5, of the last 5 rounds. I don't think there was any controversy about the result. I'm not sure what they were carrying on about. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but things got a little bit heated afterwards. Trent Girdham refused to shake Hassan Hamden's hand, which I think is pretty piss poor, if you ask me. His trainer, Rodney Williams, had a little bit to say as well. Rodney, you remember, was also involved in the Manuel Mate fight the week before. So he just finds himself in a little bit of strife each week by the by the looks of things lately. Rodney, he's a good guy, Rodney. So I'm sure he's just having a bit of a bad patch. But I couldn't see what the controversy was about. I thought it was a good, tough fight, but I thought Hassan Hamden won the fight clearly. As I said, I thought he won 5 rounds. Worst case 4. Still would have gave him the win anyway. But the fact that he didn't shake his hand afterwards and go out there and look, mate, you lost. We all get pissed off and disappointed, but have a little bit of class and, at least shake his hand. You can have a bit of a whinge on social media or whatever later. It's a great fight. I'd like to see a rematch. I'm not sure now if I was Hassan Hamden, I'd bother giving him a rematch with the way he carried on. But, and that's what I said about just having a little bit of class. I think you can still get eyeballs on your fight, eyeballs on yourself, your social media and all the rest of it without, acting like a bit of a douche. So congratulations to Hassan. I thought Jeff Fenech handled himself really well too. I thought things could have got a little bit heated. I know his dad got a little bit excited there, but that can happen. I mean, at the age of son in there, what would you do if someone disrespected your son like that? What do we got there, mate? We've got Andrew. Thanks, mate, for the comment. Oh, Linda, that walk-off was a bit unsportsmanlike. Yeah, mate, that's what I was just saying. It was really unsportsmanlike. And whether you look, I had 100 fights as an amateur. There was many that I lost that I thought I won, but I never carried on like an idiot. Yes, I'd be disappointed and probably go out there and, kick the chair or whatever. That happens. But you still shake the hand of your opponent. It's not your opponent's fault that you didn't get the decision. So shake his hand. If you want to put in a protest or whatever, do that. But just act like a sportsman and do the right thing and have a rematch. As I said, I would have liked to have seen the rematch, but if I was Hassan Hamden, I wouldn't do it. So on to the main 3 fights. Harry Garside was the first one out. He fought a really brave Tasmanian, Leighton McFerrin. I've actually promoted Leighton a couple of times, so I knew that he'd give a good account of himself. Tough boys and girls from down Tasmania way. They mightn't have the best haircuts getting around, but they're all pretty tough and game. Apologies, Tassie, if you're watching. I know he'll let me know about it on Thursday. He always gets a bit defensive if I hang shit on the Tasmanians. But look, he fought really well. And Harry Garside is such a class act. He's so fast. He's so slick. Throws really good punches. Has a high work rate. He's going to give a lot of fighters some nightmares, I think. What's that there, mate? Always almost bring the beast out in Dad Nader. Well, if you've met Nader, I'm sure a lot of you guys have, he's such a down-to-earth, very calm, pleasant, nice guy. And to see him do that, I don't know what was said, but it would have been something that that caused the bristles to appear on Nader Hamden, but thankfully it didn't get any worse out of hand, and because everyone's a bit fire at that stage. But yeah, we'll see if anything happens there. But yeah, as I said, with Harry Garside, I thought Leighton McFerrin was game, really came to fight. And I think that's what's good about these no limit shows. They actually choose opponents, so they're going to give their guys a test. They don't just throw them in with people that they're going to bowl over in 1 or 2 rounds and get nothing out of it. You lose fans really quickly with that. And I thought, Leighton McFerrin, as I said, I'd promoted him twice, and 2 times he'd been on our show. We'd upset the A side. So, as I said, I knew what he was capable of, but Harry Garside just a class above, and I think he's just levels above all the other lightweights in Australia. There are some out there that would definitely test him, don't get me wrong. And who knows, maybe we might see a fight with him and Jacob NG down the track. I know that's probably maybe a year or 2 down the track, and Jacob NG is obviously looking at bigger things at the moment. And first and foremost, obviously getting the fight with Billy Dibb, the rematch, and we'll see what happens after that, whether he then goes on to get world ranked and maybe gets some sort of big fight down the track. But if he doesn't, I think Harry Garside's coming. And I think they'll fast track Harry. He's had 3 fights in about 3 months at the moment, so I wouldn't be surprised if he fights another probably 3 times for the year. That'll give him 6 fights, and maybe cut him back a little bit the next couple of years. But try and get him maybe 15 fights over the first 3 years, and then really start to push him on after that. But I think he's got the type of ability that I think he could be knocking on the door of some sort of regional title after another couple of fights. That's how talented that I think he is. Olympians, they're not Olympians for nothing. They can fight. So I don't think there's any issue fast tracking them. I think he had a 10-round fight in his second fight as well. So yeah, as I said, I think he's one of those types of fighters, almost like, let me finish, almost like a Lomachenko, who can come straight out of the amateurs and straight into the pros and make an impact. I'm not in any way comparing Harry Garside to Lomachenko, but he's the type of guy that can jump straight into 10, 12 rounders. And I wouldn't be surprised, as I said, if he didn't get a regional title fight within another 2 or 3 fights and win it, and then really springboard on some big things after that. And we all know he's with the right team, No Limit, doing great things with all the boxes at the moment, and they've got all the bit going on. The No Limit boys have obviously got Sam Goodman, who's on the undercard. I didn't actually mention Sam. I apologise. Liam Wilson, Jay Mitchell will be part of the team. Obviously, Shannon O'Connell. Got so many of these great young fighters. Well, I won't call Jade Mitchell or Shannon O'Connell young, of course. But they've got such a great roster at the moment. They've got so much going on that why wouldn't you be with them? So quickly before I move on with Harry, finish it off. Sam Goodman, as I said, geez, he was impressive. He as well dropped in the first round as well. With a guy that had 11 wins with 1 knockout. So, he knocked Sam down, caught him cold. And I think that's a lesson for anyone that's in there with these international fighters coming on, that you've got to be wary. It's a different level. The step up can go really quick. Might only seem like a small step up, but that step up can really hit you hard. And I can't remember, actually, I've got his opponent here. It was Fumiye Fuzi, who's 11-1 with only the 1 knockout. Sam Goodman was 10-0, now 11-0. No doubt he'll get world ranked now with one of the organisations. That fight was for the IBF Intercontinental Super Bantam title and the WBO Oriental Super Bantamweight title. So who knows? Could we see Sam in with a Jason Maloney or something at some stage? Again, Jason's got massive things happening, but geez, in another year or 2, maybe that could be a massive Australian fight, Sam Goodman and Jason Maloney. Who knows? So yeah, as I said, Sam will probably be rated in the top 15 of the IBF and WBO pretty soon, I would think. Doesn't mean that he's got to jump in and fight those guys straight away. I'd like to see him maybe get up to about 20 fights before he really starts the next phase, because look, end of the day, don't be impatient. I think that's the problem with a lot of these guys these days. They're so impatient. They see a lot of these fighters get the shots and they want to jump up. And as I've said many times on this segment, that's one thing to fight for a world title, which is easier than ever these days. Let's face it, it's pretty easy to get in the top 10, top 15. All you got to do is win a regional title. Not that that's easy, but it can be manipulated very, very easily. You can fight just the right opponent. It's not that hard to get a WBA or WBO or IBF regional title these days against maybe a Thai or a Filipino or whatever. So, and in Sam's case, the Japanese. So, you can get, and once you get in the top 15, as we've shown, happened to Luke Jackson, it's probably going to happen to Michael Zarafa. He can, you can get that voluntary shot that can come just like that, and you just have to be at the right place at the right time, and away you go. What do we got there again, mate? We've got a comment on Leighton. Leighton tried hard, but Garside showed his class for sure. Goodman got early scare like young Hassan. Yeah, I was just saying, mate, they both got dropped in the first round. Sam Goodman, I was really impressed with him as well as Hassan, obviously, as well. Just move my mic there. It's blurring my camera. Let's have a look. Because, look, you don't know how you're going to react. And it's easy to say, get up and do this or do that. But till you've actually been dropped and put on your ass, and it's never really happened before, it's really hard to know how you're going to react. And I thought Sam got up. He took a deep breath. He took the full count, was really composed. And that's a sign of a very, very good, balanced and composed young fighter. So some fighters panic. They go out there and they just let him go and get caught again. I was really impressed, as I said, with his composure. And I think he went on, and I thought he won pretty much every round after that. The scores were 98, 91, 98, 91, and 98, 91. So, yeah, by that count, he did win every round after that. So good on Sam. As I said, I think he's going to get destined for some big things down the track. He's just probably got to learn from this fight, keep it nice and tight, and make the necessary adjustments in training. And I'm sure he'll be fine, and join the likes of a Liam Wilson as a really good young fighter coming up, in a Harry Garside. So at the time of the stoppage with Harry Garside, Leighton McFerrin, 60-54, 60-53, 60-54. So one of the judges actually gave Harry a 10-8 round before that. But their 7th round knockout. Harry's now 3-0. Leighton's 5-2. And I'm sure Leighton will get some other fights as well. He's a tough kid. Always comes the fight. And, so I'm sure he'll be fine as well. And Harry Garside, well, who do you think he should fight next? Do you think they should maybe fast-track him to an international opponent, or is there any other fighters out there? I might actually, while we're speaking, bring up the AMBF ratings and just see who else might be out there for Harry. I think he's going to run out of it really quickly. But I'll bring up the lightweight rankings now and have a bit of a look. Where are we? Men's. So at lightweight, who we got? So Harry's obviously the champion. Brock Jarvis, that might be a little bit off. I think obviously Brock's now at international level. I'd like to even maybe see him fight Francis Chua. I think he wins that fight quite comfortably. At least Francis is going to really take it up to him for 10 rounds. He's at lightweight as well. Jalen Tate, that would be a ripper fight for Harry. I think that might be maybe 2 or 3 fights away. Maybe that one. Miles Zalewski would be a good one. I don't think they're going to let Harry near Miles for another 4 or 5 fights, wouldn't have thought. I think Miles can punch. He's had a few fights now, so I'm not sure that's a fight they need straight away. Ibrahim Bella promoted Ibi for quite a few fights. Again, I think he's a little bit down the track for Harry. And look, that's probably the only one at this stage I would think would be a good one for Harry. Bruno Tarimo, not yet. Liam Wilson, definitely not yet. Dana Coolwell, that could be a good fight down the track as well. Jackson John England's another one. So some good fights out there. So TC Priestley's another one. He's a national champion or former national champion. It has a misleading record, does TC Priestley, but he always comes to fight. Still some fights out there for Harry. So we'll see what happens there. On to the 2 main fights. Nikita Tszyu. Well, not much to say about Nikita. He went out there against Mason Smith and absolutely tore him to shreds. Now, I don't know what Mason Smith was thinking. Mason's a talented fighter, but he's not a big puncher, even though he was 5-0. I'll just check his record there and see if he'd actually had many knockouts. He was 5-0. He had 2 knockouts. So, and those knockouts were against opponents who probably wouldn't set the world on fire. So I didn't understand the strategy, apart from being nervous and, maybe overawed by the occasion a little bit. He went out there and just got excited. Nikita showed really good composure. He took his time. Mason came out and, threw a few big punches, but I think it was only a matter of time once he adopted that strategy. Nikita I think it was the right uppercut. I think it was that that got Mason Smith followed, I think, by a left hook or a left overhand left, whatever it was, but put him down. And then it was only a matter of time. I think he shook him numerous times after that. And the referee, I think, did a really good job stopping it because Nikita's such a big, strong kid. Well, he's not really a kid, but he still reminds me of a kid. But when you meet him, you'll see that he's big, he's hard, not an ounce of fat on him, and he's strong. So, in that big southpaw style that he's got. So good stoppage. Nikita, as I said, great young talent. I'm not sure they'll fast track him too quickly. I've got no doubt that he'll take care of a lot of the light middleweights out there. Let's have a look who he's at. Luke middleweights. Luke Woods. I wouldn't have a problem with seeing Nikita fight Luke Woods, even though he's the Australian champion. I think Nikita can win that fight. I would stay away at this stage from the likes of Ben Mahoney. Wade Ryan might be a good one. I know his brother Tim fought Wade early on. Cullen Masudia, maybe not quite yet. Joel, not yet. Joel's a really cagey, awkward type of opponent, so I definitely don't think that's within the next 12 months. But, this guy's like Tyson Best, mate, definitely not the likes of Adrian Rodriguez and Victor Nagby just yet. But, yeah, look, there's a couple there that you could probably fight, even if you got a couple of welterweights coming up. See there's a couple there. Also, maybe some middleweights that might come down. I know there is Benjamin Bomber from Melbourne that's pretty keen to fight Nikita, as is Terry Nicholas. I think guys, if they're not that I think they're watching it all, but if they are, I would just think, knowing the way Nikita or the Team Zoo operate, I don't think yapping on social media and yelling at call outs at fights is the way to go. It's not really the way to get these type of fights with Nikita. I think and an example I'll give you, Manuel Carlos was supposed to fight Tim Tszyu on one of my cards about 5 years ago, I think it was, 4 or 5 years ago, and Tim got injured and had to pull out. They're all for doing the fight again in a couple of months' time, but unfortunately, E-Man and his team got on social media and were pretty disrespectful towards Tim. Well, they just moved on to another opponent and he missed out. So if you're those types of guys, my advice to them would be Benjamin and Terry or whoever else, make your intentions known that you want to fight Nikita. That's great, but just keep it classy, as they say. Keep it respectful. And one opponent prospective opponent that is doing that is Tassie Brown's fighter, Bo Belbin. If you've ever met Bo, you won't find a nicer guy, such a humble guy. He can fight, don't get me wrong. I think he gives Nikita a really good fight, but he is respectful, he's humble, he knows his place, he knows he's going to be the B-side, but he'll step up. He might not give you the headlines and, the media grabs that the other guys might give, but I think if you're after a really good, solid guy to give Nikita a good fight, this is the guy, and I really hope he gets it. 1, for the exposure, 2, for the opportunity, and 3, for the payday. To fight Nikita on national TV would be awesome. And as I said, I really hope he gets the fight. I was sitting just beside him at the fights on Wednesday night. Did the colour sort of drain from his face a little bit when he dropped Mason Smith? But afterwards, I had a really good talk to him, and he's up for it. He said, "I'll sign the fight tomorrow to fight Nikita. I want the opportunity. I want to take my chances. I want to test myself." And as I said, if you're not familiar with Bo, he's 5-0. He's fighting in a couple of weeks' time. I got no doubt he'll be 6-0. He's fighting in Tassie on Tassie Brown's promotion. He'll be 6-0, so it makes good for the promotion. Nikita fighting a 6-0 fight. I think he might have had 3 or 4 knockouts as well. He can punch. He can box. He's got a little bit of everything, Bo. And I really think he gives Nikita a fight. Not to say he's going to beat Nikita, but I think he won't be as silly as to go out there and try and get involved in a punch on with Nikita, because obviously he knows what's happening. He knows he can't run and box because Nikita will hunt you down. He knows he can't stand there and just slug, especially for the first couple of rounds. So I think, and Tassie's a very, very good trainer, so I think he will have a strategy. And as I said, I think it's a really good fight. Hopefully, No Limit make the fight for the next one. I think Nikita's going to fight again in August, I think. So let's hope he gets that fight. Just before we get on to the main event, again, just like to thank Glenn Jennings, because he came down after Nikita's fight, took us down to the change rooms to meet Nikita, a great young guy. His team are awesome. I obviously met them before when they were in Bendigo with Tim about 3 or 4 years ago when they fought on my card. But a really, really nice young guy, really down to earth they are. We actually watched the Gallen fight sort of out the back with the team, and just a really good bunch of guys. So I didn't really see a lot of the Gallen fight up close and personal. As I said, it was on a monitor, but it was an interesting one because I'm not quite sure. We talked about this on the show last week. We're not quite sure why they picked Chris Terziewski to fight Gallen. I think right from the word go, you could tell that Gallen, one, wasn't into the fight. I think he really struggled to get up for the fight. Excuse me. Chris Terziewski took his opportunity, but a big, strong, awkward southpaw who can fight. I'm not quite sure why they took that. I'm sure they could have got maybe someone a little bit more user-friendly, if you want to call it that, for Paul. But, he looked disinterested for the whole fight. He come to life in the 8th or 9th round, whatever it was. But, probably only 1, 2 or 3 rounds. And Chris took his chances. So what happens with Chris now is you get a shot at Justice Honey down the track. It'd be interesting. Could be a good one. Justice is obviously fighting in a month's time, I think, against Joseph Goodall, which will be a ripper. Now, whether he fights a winner of that or even the loser of that fight, I think Chris Terziewski's done really well. And I met him at the airport the following day, and really, really nice guy as well. So let's see what happens there. So I think Paul Gallen, I think that'll be it for him now. I think he's earned his money. I think the fact that he didn't get the Sonny Bill Williams fight has really, really taken the interest in the sport out of it for Gallen. He obviously had his opportunity. Great win against Lucas Brown, of course. But obviously he was exposed a lot by Justice Honey, and the fact that the Sonny Bill Williams fight was looking more and more unlikely to come about. You could sort of see that in his body language in the fight, and he just didn't turn up on the night. So whatever he does, look, I think my opinion is he has been good for boxing. I haven't been a fan of the whole footy thing and the YouTube thing and all that sort of stuff, but I think Paul Gallen tried his absolute best to be a boxer. He wasn't trying to be a rugby player, just trying to, to rape a bit of dollars out of the viewing public, the boxing public out there. I think he legitimately wanted to be taken seriously, hence why he took the big fights. So I take my hat off to Paul Gallen. I think don't compare him to some of these other football players that just took the piss and just wanted a quick payday. He wanted to be a real boxer and ended up being a real boxer. So whatever he decides to do, all the best to him. And I think he's done a great job in providing a platform for young Aussie boxers out there. So best of luck to him. So just before I move on to some other news or some other topics, again, I mentioned this on the Deep Dive show again, how good it was to be amongst the boxing fraternity. And I was at the airport the next day and, arrived 4 hours early because I got kicked out of my apartment at 10 o'clock in the morning, and my fight didn't go till 2:30. So I got to the airport and, got a coffee and sat there, and who do I run across? Barry Michael again turns up. So and then all of a sudden, I saw the WA guys come in, Francis Chiller and Tony Tolge and a few of the boys turn up. They sat down. Lieutenant Dan came over. We had the Victorian boys come through, Sam Brizzy and Mason Smith and his team come through, Chris Terziewski and his team come through. I saw Brock Ellis from Oz Boxing, and just, look, just the procession of people coming through. And it was really good to just be around boxing people again, to sit around and just talk boxing and just have a really, really nice, relaxing couple of hours with everyone. I think everyone really was in the same boat, just what's happening here, and lots of little bits and tidbits that each one has, little rumors and such is fighting, and this show, and this one's been offered this one, and this is what's going on there, and I just love it, and that's what's great, going to these type of events. And I'll never forget, the Horn Pacquiao fight. I've probably talked about this before. Getting up to the hotel 3 or 4 days before the Horn Pacquiao fight, sitting in the foyer all day, every day, and just having the lobby full of boxing people from all over the world, and just sitting and talking boxing all day and night. It was awesome. I went up there with my family. I didn't see him for probably 4 days, except for dinner at night. I'd go there, and this morning I'll be there again. I sat there all day, and it was just great. I had an absolute ball, and that's what was great about this one. It's a lot smaller scale. That's why I'm a little bit pissed I'm not going to be in Melbourne for the George Gambosis Devin Haney fight. I'm going to be overseas for that. But all you guys going, make sure you get down there. If you're coming from interstate, get there a couple of days earlier. Really take in the atmosphere, because this will just be massive. There'll be people from all over the world, boxing people all over, fans, boxers, commentators, you name it. They'll all be there. So get there and really take it in. Get the value for money. The fight itself, the day itself will be awesome, but do yourself a favour and get there at least a day or two early and really soak it all in, because who knows when we're going to get this opportunity again. And on that card itself, obviously the Maloney boys have been on there on last week's show. Both Maloneys are on there, which is great. Jason will be the main support, which is awesome. The exposure he's going to get is great. Andrew will be on after the main telecast, the non-televised show, but Andy won't care. He just wants to get on the card and get another fight on his belt and put him in line for another big fight. Before we keep going there, what have we got there, mate? You seem to be the only one commenting at the moment. So if you guys are out there, there's a few watching at the moment. Get your comment in there or your question, and let's have a conversation. Love to see Nikita get a solid test. Chris was too much for Gal. Thanks, Gal. I got Huni over Chris. Yeah, I think so. I got Huni over any heavyweight in Australia, including Joseph Goodall. I think he wins that fight pretty comfortably. And I think with Justice Huni, don't be surprised if after this fight he goes international. Not so much to fight international, but I think they'll start bringing international fighters in here, unless a Chris Terziewski. I think he's the only heavyweight, hang on, apart from Willis Mean, I will say. I would love to see that down the track, but I've got a feeling they're not going to risk that fight until there's some massive money involved. So Justice is 1, Willis Mean is 2, Joseph Goodall's 3, Paul Gallen was 4. I'm assuming Chris goes up to 4 now. Django Upaloo in there. He's already fought him, of course. Christian's always already fought. And there's really not much. I'll tell you one that might be an interesting one is Elijah Salsui. I reckon he could throw a few. I'm not quite sure he's sort of ready. He's only had a handful of fights at the moment, but he could be one they might throw as well. So I think apart from Chris Terziewski, I think for the time being, after the Goodall fight, I think they will then maybe, if they can't get the Terziewski fight, they might go international and bring some fighters over. Maybe it's a Junior Farr or one of these types of guys they want to put him in with. But I've got a feeling that there's so much money to be made in the heavyweight division at the moment. Well, you wouldn't blame Tasman fighters and Dean Lonergan for chucking Huni in there pretty early. I think he's had such an amateur background that they could, a bit like Harry Garside, they could put him in. He's already fought 10 rounders pretty much from the word go. I think they could put him in there pretty quickly with some maybe top 20 to 30 fighters pretty quick, and then elevate him to a regional title and get ranked in the top 15, and then anything can happen. So at the moment, Justice has only had, I think, 6 fights. I think it is, or 5 or 6 fights. So I think they'll wait till he's had about a dozen. Then they'll really start to step him up to that world stage. So I'm with you, mate. Let's go Ferocious George. Have you ever seen a more confident guy? I've said it so many times, but the guy just oozes confidence and self-belief. And I must admit, I was never really a massive George fan as he was coming through the ranks. I thought he was a little bit of a big mouth between you guys and myself. But look, that Teofimo Lopez fight, how could you not be a fan of George Kambosos? And, he talks it up, but he backs it up. And, he's an Aussie, obviously, as well. So, really hoping, I'm expecting he gets past Devin Haney. If he fought anywhere near he fought against Lopez, he beats Devin Haney. And then what happens after that? So many big fights for him after that. Ryan Garcia and the Lomachenko fight, and maybe Tank Davis, and who knows? Who was it just fought recently? Oh, what have we got there? Oh, yeah. Shakur Stevenson is another one. So many big fights. What have we got there, Paul? Thanks for your comment. Hi, boss. Have you seen the full card and the Kambosos card? Kambosos, should say. Interesting to see Lucas Brown gets a gig after losing the Gallen. Now, on the show last week, Peter Maniata said there was 11. I had it on good authority from someone else really closely involved in the show. There's actually 14 fights on this card. Now, my first question was, how the hell do you get 14 fights on this type of card? But I think what they're going to do, the main card, the televised card starts at, I think, 9:30. I think it is. So it might be the televised card, but the actual first fight starts at 9:30 in the morning. So, geez, good luck to those fighters that have to get there at probably 7 o'clock in the morning to start getting ready. Can't see myself doing that if I was at that level. So 9:30 it starts. Then I think the main card might start at about 11:30. I think it might be 11:30, 12 o'clock, and that's where you'll see the Junior Far Lucas Brown fight. To answer your question there, Paul, before we get on to the rest of it there, I think what it is there are Junior Far is obviously part of Duco. Duco, one of the sponsors, the promoters of this event. So they're going to want a winnable fight, but with a big name. I think Junior Far and the Brown fight are going to be pretty high card. So I think they want a credible opponent that Junior Far should beat. And I think Lucas Brown more than fits the bill. And good on Lucas Brown as well. You know, after that Paul Gallen fight, let's face it, he could have been thrown in the on the rubbish heap. But he's got himself back in contention. If he beats Junior Far, who knows what can happen. I must admit, I was absolutely disgusted in that performance against Paul Gallen. I wasn't in there, of course, so I don't know what actually happened and the punches he got hit with. I just expected so much more from Lucas Brown, and to be bombed out in one round by Paul Gallen, I just think really tarnished his reputation. Obviously, his last fight with Django Upaloo was a really good performance. I thought after a really slow start, and this is his chance. If he beats Junior Far, he's right back in the mix. So good luck to Lucas Brown as an Aussie. I'll be going for him. I hope he wins. But that's why that fight is being made. And as I said, mate, I just don't think they've got anyone else. You know, that's obviously Lucas Brown. All the money they're going to be saving on airfares and accommodation and visas and you name it, give the money to Lucas Brown to make the fight happen. So that's probably why. But as I said, 14 fights on the card. I think, as I said, Andy Maloney will be on the after card or overcard, whatever you want to call it, after the Cambosis fight. And I think there'll be something like 6 or 7 fights on that card. So pretty good if you're hanging around. I'm sure they'll have those fights on probably just on Fox Sports, I would say, on the after the main event coverage. I doubt they'll have all the commentators that hang around for the after fights. But yeah, so 14 fights. I've had a good chat to Lieutenant Dan Hennessy, who's going to be one of the announcers on the card. He's going to do 13 fights on that card. Michael Buffo is coming over. We'll do one fight only. And I've got, a really good source has told me he'll get at least $100,000 for one fight, as well as business class airfares out, all the 5-star hotels, all the rest of it. But hey, this type of events, it needs Michael Buffo, doesn't it? I mean, you could probably go over to Jimmy Lennon. I really like Jimmy Lennon. He's probably my favourite. But, you know, Michael Buffo is obviously great as well. So money that it costs to get those types of guys out. So it's going to be an awesome event. Really looking forward to it. I can't believe I'm not going to be here for it. But if you've watched any of the shows, you'll know that I'm in New York for the International Boxing Hall of Fame induction. I'll be watching from New York City. I can't wait to be over there to watch it over there. But yeah, just absolutely that I won't be at the fights live and just soaking it all in. So over the next couple of weeks, obviously on the deep dive show that comes out on a Friday morning, we'll go right into all the undercard fights as they're released, and obviously delve right into the main event. And yeah, as the show says, we'll deep dive it. So that's that one. On to the weekend's fights. Just gone, Brian Castano and Jermell Charlo. Now, there's a lot to talk about with this one because I was one of the ones that thought Castano won the first fight. I thought he won actually quite clearly, in my opinion. I know a lot of you guys out there will probably disagree with me, but I thought he won the fight clearly. I thought he won 8 rounds to 4, if not worst case 7 rounds to 5 in the first fight. But I did pick Charlo to win the rematch because I thought if Charlo's as good as we all think he is, he'll get the job done, and that's exactly what he did. Castano had his moments, but excuse me, I was a little bit surprised. Excuse me, I'll just take a drink there. Oop. I was a little bit surprised that Castano started as slow as he did. I understand that Charlo can punch. I understand that Charlo is a different beast, and it's easy from the outside to say he should have done this or should have done that. But Castano in the first fight really jumped on Charlo early. He set a really quick pace. I think he put Charlo off his game a little bit, really put him on the back foot. Charlo was very apprehensive. He didn't throw as many punches as what he normally does. However, in this one, he made the adjustments. Obviously, maybe Charlo was obviously a massive difference why maybe Castano didn't start quickly, because Charlo himself started quickly himself, but threw a lot more punches. Castano really didn't have that opportunity with Charlo. He didn't lay the ropes this time. You remember in the first fight, Charlo did lay on the ropes. He didn't move a lot. He really let Castano plant his feet and punch away, where this time Charlo wasn't massive movement, but just a sidestep here or a sidestep there, and really didn't let Castano settle. He did counter Charlo a lot this time as well. He would let Castano punch, and then he would counter with either a quick left hook on the break or a little right hook in close on the break. And that's what ultimately knocked Castano down. It was a counter left hook, and delayed reaction put him down with one knee. And you could tell he was in all sorts of trouble, and he was out of there. So one thing that did surprise me, though, I must admit, was the scorecards. I'm not sure how you guys scored it. I actually had it 6-3 for Charlo. I did give him the couple of rounds before that that had the gap up till then. I had it 4-3 after 7, but as I said, I did give him rounds 8 and 9. And then, of course, he put him away in the 10th round. But if you look at the scorecards, 87-84, which is the way I had it. Another judge had it 88-83, so that was 7 rounds to 2. And the other judge had it 89-82. So I only gave Castano 1 round. So to only give 1 round to Castano, I think that was, look, end of the day, a lot of close rounds and everything, but to only give Castano 1 round, I think was very, very disrespectful to Brian Castano. I think they're both champions. It's close. But look, these judges see it from different angles. They're obviously watching one fighter. One judge might like the technical side. The other might like the aggressive side and the power punch side. So it's hard to say, but surely we can give more than 1 round to Castano. But at the end of the day, Charlo was a dominant fighter. He won clearly, and now undisputed super welterweight champion of the world, which then opens the Pandora's box about what is next. Now, we all know what we want. We want our man Tim Tszyu to get the shot, but as we've discussed in these shows before, it's not a foregone conclusion. And if you watched after before the show, they actually interviewed Fundora as well. He's the next one in line. He's actually the WBC mandatory. Tim's the WBO mandatory. So there's lots of what I think. There's Bakram. I've written it down because I can't remember his name. Bakaram Murtaziliev must be a Russian. He's going to be the IBF mandatory. So all those guys are going to throw the hat in the ring, and that's what makes it so difficult to keep everyone happy. All these sanctioning bodies, because I'm not quite sure who the WBA mandatory is. But, all these guys are going to want the mandatory shots. And this is what's so hard about it. And I've got it down here, actually. Josh Taylor's actually been stripped of the WBA junior welterweight belt because he won't defend, or he can't or won't defend against Alberto Puello. Now, I think it's really unfair to strip an undisputed champion. I think what they should do, if they're undisputed champion, is have a pact amongst all the sanctioning bodies that will be 1 for 1, and then the next and the next. But then, in having said that, then you're fighting 4 mandatories in a row. It's just a really difficult one, which is why not many of these guys hold the undisputed titles for more than probably 6 to 12 months, unless you're Canelo Alvarez, of course. You can sort of do what you want. So does Tim get it? As I said, he did make his case on the Showtime interview before the fight. But as I said, Fundora made just a strong case. And looking at the post-fight interviews at the press conference, I don't think Charlo wants to give Tim Tszyu the satisfaction of getting a fight. I really don't think he likes Tim personally, and unfortunately, if that's the case, and he's got an array of opponents to choose from, I'm not confident that Tim gets the fight. I'm really not. I think they'll say to him, "You must fight one of these other guys to earn your fight." I don't think he's going to fight Tim unless he absolutely has to. Now, at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, because WBO will strip Charlo, and Tim will get the mandatory fight for it. So either way, he's going to fight for the world title. But is it just me? What do you guys think? I think Charlo doesn't want to fight Tim, not because he's scared of him, because he just doesn't like Tim and doesn't want to give him that satisfaction of getting the shot. That's just the vibe I get. And to call him, what was it, Tim Kazoo or something he called him, he just doesn't like Tim. And I think that's what it is. You're right, Paul, money talks, but not where Tim's involved, unfortunately. Tim is no different to any of those other opponents. It can't happen in Australia. The money's just not there for it to happen in Australia. Charlo's probably going to want $6, $7, $8 million for it. The money's just not here to make that happen. I don't think the pay-per-views are here to get it. And look, no doubt the Aussie fight fans would jump all over it, but are they really going to get 3, 4, 5 times as many people that they get now to watch a normal Tim Tszyu fight? I don't think so. So I think it's got to happen in America, and I just don't think the money's there unless it's in America and Charlo calls the shots. And when you think about it, again, this is just my opinion, but when you've got an Errol Spence out there, obviously, sorry, not Errol Spence because they're teammates, Terence Crawford may be out there, or maybe going up to middleweight to fight some of those big fights up there, whether it be Chris Eubank Jr. or Triple G or whoever, Jaime Munguia, lots of big fights. Does Tim Tszyu really fight his boat? Now, don't get me wrong, I think Tim Tszyu has more than enough to beat Charlo, but maybe that's why Charlo knows it. But I just think he's got a real bee in his bonnet about, constantly being asked about Tim Tszyu, and at every press conference, and there's always an Aussie reporter there, whether it be a social media reporter or a ESPN or Fox Sports, whatever it might be, asking the question, when are you going to fight Tim? I think he's sick of it. I think he's over it, and I don't think he's going to fight fight Tim Tszyu unless he absolutely has to, and he gets very, very well paid. I did see on one of the pages today, I think it might have been ESPN, the boxing, where they're talking about, they're saying that they don't think Tim Tszyu will get a shot either, and they think that the first defense of the unified title might be against Aleem Smith, a Tony Harrison, a Jack Kulke, the Bakaram Murtaziliev, I'll say, or an Austin Trout. Now, surely Austin Trout couldn't possibly be in line to fight a Jamal Charlo. Surely. I hope that doesn't happen because that would just be a farce. Liam Smith might be one. He looked pretty good in his last fight. He could be one that they have a voluntary defense against. But who knows? Who knows? But as I said, I really hope it's Tim Tszyu. I've just got a feeling they're not gonna go for him. If it is Tim Tszyu, what do you guys think? Is he a chance to beat Charlo? And just before I move on here, what do we got here? We've got, I thought, same like you, Castano won first. Charlo was to adjust in the second. Congrats, Charlo, but props to Castano too. Yeah, great fight. Look, massive props to Brian Castano. I was really surprised to see there's only 5'7". He's actually shorter than I am. I'm touching 5'8", and I'm only a short ass for around that weight as well. Not that I'm that weight. I was a welterweight, which is even less, but I was taller than him. So I think his natural weight would be a welterweight, but I think he bulks up or eats up to that light middleweight. So I was really surprised at that. But he's a really, really good fighter, Castano. I'd love to see him fight Tim Tszyu. I would really like to. And who knows, maybe if Charlo decides not to fight Tim, maybe they strip Charlo and Castano and Tim Tszyu fight for the vacant title. Hey, I think that's a win as well. That's just as much of a win, I think. Well, not quite as big as Charlo, obviously, but I think that's a massive win, and that fight could quite easily happen. So if Charlo, and you got to remember, Tim hasn't had an opportunity. 2 years he's been mandatory challenger for the WBO. How much patience do the WBO give to Charlo? Now, if Charlo says this to the WBO and says, I'm going to fight a Liam Smith or the Murtaziliev or whoever, and chooses one of the other mandatories to fight instead of Tim, does the WBO call his bluff and say, we've had your opportunity, you've had 2 years to fight Tim, now we're going to strip you? Castano, would being the former champion, of course, would be the logical opponent. And how big would that be? So that's maybe, the flip side to Tim not getting the fight. So we'll see what happens. As I said, do you think that Tim has a chance against either of these guys? Now, I've seen a lot of the comments online about it. We all want Tim to win. Obviously, the heart says Tim. What does the brain think, guys? What do you guys think? Realistically, honestly, does Tim go against these guys? I think he beats Castano convincingly. I think Castano's got that exact style for Tim. I don't think Castano's a big puncher. I think the way he fights, this style, the way he walks up, there's not a lot of head movement. He's not overly quick with his hands or feet. I think he has the exact style to suit Tim. I think Tim really does a job on Castano. Just my opinion. Charlo, on the other hand, is a massive, massive different kettle of fish. I think he would be, not to say Tim can't win, but that would be along the lines of a Kambosos victory over Lopez. That's the magnitude of the fight, just as much on a par, if not more. I really think so. I think Tim beating Charlo would be bigger than Kambosos beating Lopez. Again, just my opinion. Again, undisputed champion. I think Charlo's got a lot better portfolio of work than what Teofimo Lopez has. Not taking away from George, of course, because Lopez had just come off that win over Lomachenko, who we all love and was in the top 10. But I think Tim beating Charlo is a bigger achievement than that. Just my opinion. What do we got here? Another comment. Anyone shooting for undisputed should accept that more Mando obligations come to the territory. Yes, mate, for sure. Don't fight for the undisputed title if you've got no intentions of, trying to appease them all. I don't know how you get around it because, as I said, to fight 4 in a row, all mandatory challenges. You've also probably seen my rants in the past of what I think of the ratings, by the way, because, the WBC, for example, the number 1 challenger mightn't even be a top 15 fighter. He might have just got there by who knows how, by, as I always get reminded by Peter, by the loyalty factor and who's paid those fees and who's taken someone out to dinner and who's given someone a gift and whatever. All that crap. The ratings to me means nothing. In this case, I will say, because he's earned that rating. But some get ratings just for bizarre reasons. So how do you fight those 4 and appease all the sanctioning bodies? I'm not quite sure how you do it, because technically you've got to have a mandatory and voluntary, amongst all them. That's 8 fights. So do you have something in place? Do all the sanctioning bodies get together and have a universal protocol in these situations? It's very rare. Like, don't get me wrong. It's very rare to have a 4, belt unified champion. But if there was, to have a bit of a mutual agreement, gentleman's agreement that, that this happens in this case. So I don't know. Maybe they draw it out the hat. Who's the first mandatory they've got to have, and then they have a voluntary of another one. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but it's a tough one. And as I said, Josh Taylor's just been stripped of the WBA title. Excuse me for not fighting. Who was it? Alberto Puello. All right. So does Jamal Charlo now? Does he, on the other hand, move up to middleweight and give up the belts? Because really, in my opinion, apart from Tim and maybe a Terence Crawford that moves up, I don't think there's really anyone for him to fight. Is it really a juicy opponent for him to fight? I think Fundora will probably get some bit of interest in the States, but I'm not quite sure how big it'll be worldwide. I think, and in the States, Tim Tszyu, and again, we don't like to use the last name, but that last name just has such a massive weight on it around the world, and not to mention his own achievements. But I think that fight could be massive. So let's just see what happens. Yeah. So your guess is as good as mine. What are you? Think Tim gets found out. The difference in levels is 2 is where he's at. Yep. Think Charlo wins with his power and work. Yep. No, mate. I'm good stuff. Actually, calling it as you see it. As I said, we all love Tim, but if that's your opinion, I can't argue with it. As I said, I think Charlo is a monumental fight for Tim. I think if anyone's going to do it, it's Tim Tszyu. But I still don't think. I think while his last fight was probably the closest that I've seen to a fighter that's really tested Tim. Gorshay, I think it was, is his name. I always pronounce it wrong. But I think Tim's the sort of fighter, probably maybe a little bit like a George Kambosos, that needs that challenge to rise to the occasion. I think he really, maybe, even though he demolishes everyone that he fights, but I think he really needs that challenge to show his wares, to show his true potential. So that's what I'm really looking forward to if he fights Charlo or Castano. I think he's that type of guy that needs a challenge. And I think he's always seen himself as not an Australian level fighter. I think he's been itching to get out of Australia for the last couple of years. I think he wants the bright lights of the States, whether it be Vegas or New York or where his last one was in the Armory, whatever it was, in Massachusetts or whatever the hell it was. Minnesota, I think it was. So no matter where he is, I think he thinks he was born to be in the bright lights, and I think he was done with Australia 2 years ago. So I think he wants this opportunity, and who knows, does he rise to the occasion? As I said, I think he's the type of guy that needs that massive fence to scale to show exactly what he's got. And I think he can win the title, but it's going to be a monumental effort, if you ask me. Head says Charlo, heart says Tim, to be honest. Yeah, mate, there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of Aussie fans would be the same. As I said, I definitely think he can get the job done, but it's not going to be easy. Charlo is a good fighter. He can punch. Very, very patient type of fighter. He's big and strong. I don't even know how he makes the weight, to be honest. He's just massive. Him and his brother are just both big guys for their weight. So, mind you, Tim is quite big for the weight as well. So yeah, we'll look. All we can do is wait and see. A couple of other things to get through before we go. As I said, Josh Taylor stripped for the WBA belt, which is a shame to see. That gets to the point where essentially anybody strips a unified champion. Maybe that Jack Catterall gets the job, gets the fight with Puello for the vacant belt, because he deserves another shot. Liam Paro, of course, talked that he'll fight Lopez for the WBO belt. How do you think he goes fighting Lopez? I think that's a monumental mountain to climb for Liam. I'm not quite sure he's had the experience to get up there, but such a talented young kid. And as George Kambosos showed, I suppose, you don't necessarily have to have massive fights all the time to qualify for, and Jeff Horn's another one, to win these types of fights. Kambosos, of course, fought Mickey Bay, and who else did he fight? The Pommy guy, the name escapes me now, but he did really well to get the experience there. But they weren't massive names, or massive at their peak, I suppose. So he got the fight and beat Lopez. So can Liam Paro do the same? Interesting one I saw as well. Actually, what do we got here? I'll just hide that there. Interesting I saw as well was that Eddie Hearn is saying that Canelo Alvarez should fight Triple G in the Trilogy. Don't worry about Bivol. What do you guys think? We talked about this at length in last week's show, the deep dive show. But do you think that, in his opinion, Golovkin Canelo 3 is the bigger fight, and thinks the fans will see it in a better light than Bivol? Because I think they thought that if Canelo got past Bivol, that Golovkin will be easy pickings. Because let's face it, Triple G wasn't very impressive in his last fight. So now that Canelo's actually lost, do we see that in a different light? Do we see that Triple G actually has a better chance? I don't think it makes any difference. I think the different types of styles, different weights, of course. So I still think Canelo chops Triple G down, but I would really like to see that instead of the Bivol fight. So interesting to hear what you guys have to say. What do we got here? Speaking of Josh Taylor, what the heck is going on with Liam Paro? Sorry, mate, I just spoke about it. I don't know. There's no mention at the moment. I haven't seen any news. They've got a little bit quiet. That can sometimes be good, because it means there's a bit of negotiation going on. Either way, Liam Paro will get a shot. As per Tim Tszyu, both ranked number 1 by the WBO. No matter what happens, and I wouldn't be too disappointed if Liam actually gets another fight or two in before that against durable guys, but aren't top of the range guys and big punches and like that. Just someone to get a few more rounds in, a little bit more experience over in the States. Maybe fight a top 20 or 30 type of guy who he can get over, just to get a bit more experience in the meantime. But yeah, I don't know, mate. I don't know what's going to happen there. I've heard that Josh Taylor is going to relinquish all the belts, and Liam will obviously fight for the vacant belt. And obviously that's already happened with the WBA, as I said, stripping Josh Taylor already. Maybe he's told them he doesn't want to defend the belts and they've stripped him. But as for the WBO, I haven't heard anything. So he will get his shot, mate. That is a given. Whether it be against Josh Taylor or Teofimo Lopez, it will happen. So again, that will be in the States. Has Liam Paro bitten off a little bit more than he can chew there? Has he got a shot? I think he's got a really good shot. Lopez, again, monumental mountain to climb, as we've talked about. But, you've got to take your opportunities while you're there. What do we got here? Oh, hang on. What do we got here? Zarafa. I thought you might bring him up, Paul. Thoughts on Jaime Munguia. Zarafa, well, I did actually mention this last Thursday night in our deep dive show, and it was broken the morning after. So I did actually hear a little bit of a whisper at the airport on the Thursday morning from someone in the know that it might be happening, which is why I mentioned it that night on the show. Jaime Munguia, I did hear about it, and the sources tell me that it's a very, very strong possibility happening. They have reached out to Zarafa, but I'm not quite sure why Zarafa would want to take the fight, unless it's for a vacant title. I don't know why he'd want to take the fight. He's ranked number 2 with the IBF. He's going to either fight for the vacant title if Triple G vacates, or he might even get an opportunity to fight Triple G himself. So unless Triple G said, I'm going to keep the belt, but I'm not going to defend against Zarafa within the next 12 to 18 months, then take the fight. But if there's that possibility that the fight with Triple G might be out there, I'm not sure why you would fight someone like a Munguia. I've got a feeling that, as the former, that I've got a feeling that Triple G said, under no circumstances am I interested in fighting Zarafa. So I'm either going to vacate the belt and hope for a Canelo fight, or not worry about it and let it go. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. But I think if he fights Jaime Munguia, from what I've seen, I think as much as, we all admire what Zarafa's done lately, and he's obviously got himself a good ranking, and he demolished Hardman. I know you're not going to like me again here, Paul. I just don't see how he beats Munguia. I really don't. I think Munguia is too big a puncher, too skilled. And I know Dennis Hogan almost beat Munguia and made him look pretty ordinary, but that was, 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever it was. I think Munguia has improved a lot. I think going up to middleweight probably suits him a little bit more. And I think the reason they've reached out to Zarafa because they want his rating. So, look, I hope Zarafa gets the fight. I know it probably sounds like in these episodes I'm bashing Michael here. I'm an admirer of Michael. I really hope he gets his opportunity. I really do. But I just think sometimes, your goals sometimes outweigh realistic chances of winning. And, as I said, I really hope Zarafa gets Munguia or a Triple G or whoever. I just think, stay right away from Triple G. But I think Munguia, he can win the fight. I just don't think he will. I just think Munguia is too big a matchup for Zarafa. But as I said, if it's for a vacant title, or the thing is, no matter what happens, Zarafa will probably make $300,000 or $400,000 out of the fight and have an opportunity to either fight for a title or even go higher in the ranking. So hey, good luck to you. This is what these guys do it for. And I know better than anyone, Michael has sacrificed everything for the last 25 years, whatever it might be. So, or 20 years in this sport. So sacrificed a hell of a lot. I hope he gets his opportunity, because these guys, they give up everything. They get paid peanuts here in Australia in the build up to these fights. So I really gets his shot. Does he win it? The answer, to be short, is no. That's just my opinion. Also, don't want to mess with your boy, but I've got a lot of respect for Michael. I've dealt with him in the past. I just don't think he beats Jaime Munguia. Triple G question. Triple G3 makes more sense for Canelo next, because second loss to Bivol would devastate. Yeah, well, what does he do after that? Does he still have the desire to go on? Look, it's a real difficult one. If I was in Canelo's position, I'm not sure what I would do. The easy thing is to say, yes, I want revenge, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go after him. I'm going to revenge my loss and get back on track. But does he have the ability to beat Bivol? Was it a hiccup? Does he have the ability to make the adjustments and beat it in the rematch? I'm not sure. He did make adjustments in the Triple J rematch and got the job done. Bivol, I don't know. He's big. He's strong. He's not a massive light heavyweight, but he's obviously a lot bigger than what Canelo is. So I don't know. Or then the flip side, do you want that to avenge that loss, or do you go for the Triple G fight that everyone wants to see? Might be bigger money. I'm not sure. And you put a full stop on that and that rivalry as well. So I'm not sure. I think maybe it might come down to just taking take a month or so to just get your thoughts and spend some time with the family and have a good talk with your team and weigh it all up and just see what you think. I think, having just said that, I think maybe I would go for the Triple G fight. I think I would just put the Bivol fight behind me. Maybe have the Triple G fight first, get that out the road, get back on track, get a little bit more confidence up, and then maybe go for Bivol. And if you get beat by Bivol, well, maybe that's curtains. Who knows? But that's what I'll do. Triple G first, and then Bivol after that, and then make the call. If you win, well, you maybe got a Charlo out there, or who's fighting next month. I've got it actually here. Who was it? David Benavidez. going right over my head. So maybe the David Benavides, David Lemieux winner. There's lots of different things out there he could probably do. So, but that's probably my advice, or what I would do: a Triple G first, Bivol second, and then see whether he's still got it inside to fight one of those guys, or just give it away. He doesn't need the money. He's got his legacy, even though he's still under young. It's so there's no big fights out there. Do you really want to risk your legacy moving forward? So, what have we got here? Triple G loses to Canelo in third, likely retires. Yeah, I think so, mate. I think if Triple G loses, that would be it. And I don't think Triple G's legacy will be harmed at all, no matter what happens. I think most people thought he won the first fight, definitely. The next fight might have been a draw. I actually thought the first one was a draw, and he lost the second fight, so I went with the judges, but I definitely don't have any arguments with those of you guys that think otherwise. I was actually there for both those fights live in the building, so I haven't watched it on replay. It was just from what I saw live, and I thought that Canelo, as I said, the first one was a draw, and I thought Canelo did more than enough in the second one, and I still think that he stops Triple G in the third. Just my 2 cents. All right, guys. So before we haven't got long to go, I just want to quickly show you this before we head on out. It is the where are we? I can't remember how I do this. I share my screen, I think it is. Where are we? No, that's not it. Where are we? Share my screen. There we go. Bring it up. All right. Here's the ESPN pound for pound. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say before we finish up for tonight. This is what the ratings are at the moment. Canelo has dropped to number 4. Terence Crawford 1, and Noah Inui is number 2. Errol Spence 3. As I said, Canelo is 4. 5 is Tyson Fury. 6 is Alexander Usyk. 7 is Vasily Lomachenko. 8 is Dimitri Bivol. He jumps into the top 10. 9 is Shakur Stevenson, I think, also jumped in. And 1, Francisco Estrada. Look, I'm one that doesn't think... Look, it's a tough one. One thing I don't like to see is Terence Crawford just inherit the number 1. The guy fights once a year. I don't like it that he just goes to number 1. But who do you put number 1? Do you say to someone like a Canelo, or do you judge him that he was the undisputed number 1? He went up a division and lost the fight to Bivol. He's still the undisputed super middleweight champion. Do you see it as he went up and lost, but he's still the pound for pound number 1, or do you automatically demote him like they've done here and put him number 4? Number 4? Are you kidding me? I don't know. But as I said, Crawford fights 1 year, don't inherit it. If you beat Errol Spence, then yes, you can make an argument for it. I think the winner of that becomes the number 1 for my 2 cents. Inui, yes, no argument with that. Errol Spence, I think I would still have Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk above Errol Spence at this stage. Again, just my opinion. And the thing is, you can see there they've dropped down Canelo and put Crawford up. That's fine. Like they've demoted Canelo because he's lost the fight. That's they haven't judged anything. They said you've lost the fight, you've gone to number 4. But then you look down at number 7 to Vasily Lomachenko. Now he got beat by Teofimo Lopez, who in turn got beat by George Kambosos, but they've still put Lomachenko in there. So even though he lost, they haven't actually, made him pay as far as the rankings go. Surely George Kambosos should be in front of Lomachenko by that rationale they've used for Canelo. You lose the fight, you're out, or put right down the rating. So purely by that, Lopez took Lomachenko's. Kambosos should have taken Lopez's shot, but all of a sudden Lomachenko is number 7. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. Usyk, my number 1. Yeah, mate. Well, no argument with that either. Look, actually, I probably do have an argument with that. Sorry, mate. I don't want to disagree with you. I think Tyson Fury for me, but come down to both of them, unless you say that Fury's now the retirement thing, whether that's definitely going to happen, he should be out of there entirely. But I think if in there, he's the number 1 heavyweight. I think the whole lineal type of thing, I think beating Joshua was good. But I think beating Wilder 3 times, well, the draw in there as well, and obviously his last one. Yeah, I still think Tyson Fury should be above Usyk in the heavyweights and the pound for pound, just in my opinion. But as far as that, say, maybe top 5. I would probably have, look, I don't know. It's a tough one. Would Tyson Fury be number 1? Fury 1, maybe drop Canelo to number 2, Crawford 3, Inouye 4, and Spence maybe or below. Actually, I'd have Usyk above Spence, him at 5 and Spence at 6. I don't know. It's a pretty tough one. Loma doesn't have a belt, shouldn't be up there if you currently don't. Yeah, there you go, mate. If you haven't got a belt, why are you in the top 10? Ability-wise, he's right up there. But end of the day, he's had 1 comeback fight since then. 1 or 2, I think it is. But end of the day, Kambosos beat the man who beat the man. So I just don't see. If you're not going to have Kambosos in there, that's fine. But don't have Loma in there as well. And for what it's worth, I actually think Lomachenko has a big chance of beating George if they met purely based on styles. But at the moment, I think George has got to be in there or no lightweights are in there. Good point here, mate. This is why Charlo blasted ESPN in after-fight presser. How good was that? He got stuck right. He got stuck into a lot of people, didn't he? He got right into Tim, of course. He got stuck into the Australian reporter who told him to shut up, and the ESPN guy who I think he had issues with him with the rankings, and actually with those rankings there. Does Jermell Charlo go in there? Maybe he does. He's an undisputed junior or super welterweight / junior middleweight in the world. Does he become top 10? I think he should probably be in there before Shakur Stevenson, and maybe even before Bivol and Estrada. So I think, and so Lomachenko. So apart from the top 6. Do you make a case for Charlo? Maybe you do. I think you do, actually. I didn't actually factor him in. I think Charlo goes in there. Jermell, that is, the one that won yesterday. I think he goes in before maybe 7 through 10. What do you guys think? So anyway, yeah. So that's the way it is. But yeah, I think ESPN do deserve it sometimes. I think the Ring magazine is the other one. I haven't got it on me, but they have some bizarre ratings on there. I don't think Tyson Fury was even in the top 10 of their rankings. So I don't know how you can do that. I haven't got it in front of me, but I'll get it for next time. But yeah, so interesting to hear what you guys have to say. Yeah, so anyway, so look, that looks like it's about it for this week, guys. If you've got any other questions you want to quickly throw at me, put them in there. I don't think there's anything going on in the Aussie scene. I'll quickly have a look while we're on air before I go. This week in Metro. Oh, yeah, we've got the Dragonfire show. Yep, that is Tony Tolge over in WA. We've got, it's the main event there. So we've got the Australian and Australasians female super lightweight title, Janine Brown, Connie Chan. The Western Australian super welterweight title, Fano Corey against Joe McCoy. And the Western Australian cruiserweight title, Glenn Austin, who's 7-0, again against Nick Ziolopoulos, who's 4-12. So you'd think Glenn Austin would get that one. So that's the only show this weekend, guys. The week after, there's a good one down at the Tim Biard in Melbourne. Matt Sheehan against Mitchell Whitelaw. Sam Abdul Rahman, I think that's how you pronounce it, against Victor Oganov. Some other good fights on there as well. So that shouldn't be a bad show. That's the Tim Biard, which is a really good venue down there. So, yeah, so that's about it, guys. Thanks again for being part of Talking Boxing. Make sure that you like, share, comment, all that sort of stuff. Facebook and Instagram and YouTube pages. Look out Friday morning for Talking Boxing, for our deep dive show. If you look at on YouTube at the moment, we've got the Dream Fight, which is which one was it? Actually, you'd think I'd even know my own Dream Fight since I'm the one that put it up. It was who was it? Geez, you think I'd know all this by now, wouldn't you? Since it only went up this morning. Oh, it was Azuma Nelson, Vasily Lomachenko. Geez, Tassie will be having a field day at the moment with our thought process. But Azuma Nelson, Vasily Lomachenko, so that's on YouTube. Classic Fight this week will be on, I think that's on Wednesday morning, so keep a look out for that. And then, of course, as I said, the deep dive show, which comes out Friday morning. So thanks again for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Really look forward to seeing you next week. Still plenty to discuss and talk about. But until then, we'll see you then, and can't wait till next week to talk some boxing.